You can either become obsessed or you can be average. This is a realization that everybody must face at some point in their lives. What's going on, everyone? I hope I don't sound too bad as I've been sick this past weekend. But before I get into this video, I just kind of want to say thank you to everybody who has tuned in, everybody who has watched my videos recently, and everybody who has subscribed. So just thank you all. The average person in America usually struggles with credit card debt and debt in general. Most of the time, it's them just buying stuff that they do not need. I read a statistic this morning about the people who went to Coachella, the music festival out in California where people just do drugs and get drunk. Doesn't really seem like the time for me, but to each their own, I guess. I read that 60% of the people who attended that festival ended up financing their ticket. This is absurd. The ticket price was like $1,000 or something, and they had a option where they could finance the tickets starting at a $50 down payment. This is just a good example of American consumerism. Most Americans buy things that they can't afford and things that they quite honestly do not even need. Not only did these people finance their ticket at probably an absurd interest rate, they also have to find a place to stay, buy food, buy drinks there, and they're probably putting all that on a credit card that charges them 28, 29% interest. To me, this is just completely irresponsible of these people. And I think this kind of just goes to show you that mindset of the average American. I also read that most Americans can't afford a $1,000 expense if it were to pop up tomorrow. This means that most Americans don't have $1,000 in an emergency fund. They can't access $1,000. That's not a lot of money. People should be able to access $1,000, have $1,000 in their bank account at all times. So this kind of leads me into the topic of the video. You need to become obsessed or you're going to be average. You need to become obsessed with your finances. You need to understand your finances, or else you're going to end up like the average American, putting stuff on credit cards, financing random trips, and not having $1,000 in your bank account to afford an emergency that pops up. Now, I know that there's a book out there called Become Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. I've read it, and it's not about what I'm about to talk about in this video. His book's about selling. You need to learn how to sell or else you're going to be average. I think it's a good book, it's a good read, but it's not about what I'm going to be talking about. I think you need to become obsessed with your finances. My obsession with my finances came when I was about 18 years old. I watched a YouTube video, I think it may have been by Andre Jick. I don't remember the guy's name, but he still uploads videos today. He had a video uploaded about his dividend portfolio, about all the stocks that he owned that pay him dividends. To me, this completely blew my mind. I had no idea that you could buy stock. I didn't even know what a stock was. I just knew that people invest money into the stock market. But from this video, I ended up doing all sorts of research. I ended up figuring out what stocks pay dividends, which ones don't, blue chip companies and all that. And I started putting money away into these stocks, blue chip stocks that pay me dividends. I remember my very first stock purchase, I believe it was 3M and IBM, just because they were old stocks that had been around forever and they paid a good dividend. When I was younger, when I first started investing, my obsession was watching the value of my portfolio increase. I remember every time I opened Robinhood and it was in the green, I would just feel good about myself. But if it was in the red, I would always get down on myself. This is just something that you get over the longer that you've been investing. And nowadays, I don't really look at the value of my portfolio too much, but I am obsessed with it still. What I'm obsessed with now is seeing the amount of shares of each ETF and stock that I own increase. They increase because I reinvest the dividends and I'm constantly buying more shares of them every single day. Every single day for the last month or so, I've been buying more shares of SCHG, Schwab's High Growth ETF. I don't care if it's one share to maybe 10 shares. Every single day for the last couple months, I bought more shares. And I've been buying more shares just because I'm obsessed with watching my share count increase. I've basically doubled the amount of shares that I own within the last 2 months. Within the time period that the stock market has gone down, I've basically doubled my position due to my obsession of watching my shares increase. Now, the value of my portfolio has gone down a good amount because this ETF is a little more risky than the stock market, so it goes down about 3 to 5% more than the individual stock market, like SPY or VU. So I'm not really worried about that though. I'm not retiring for another 25 to 35 years, closer to 60. So I have all the time in the world to be buying stocks and to let it grow. So I'm buying now, hoping to be able to sell it for 5 to 10x the value in 30 years. On top of my obsession of watching my shares increase in my stock market portfolio, I'm also obsessed with having a fully funded emergency fund. I'm obsessed with making sure my credit cards are paid off. If I put money on my credit cards, I'm paying them off when I get paid. And then I'm also obsessed with, right now, I'm saving to put down a down payment on a house. Right now, I honestly have enough money to be able to go put a down payment on a house, but I'm obsessed in making sure not only do I have the 20% down and all the expenses covered up front, but I'm obsessed in making sure I have about a $10,000 buffer, or I guess emergency fund, in case, say, the hot water tank goes out and I have to replace that within a month of living there. So truly, I hope you guys can become obsessed about your finances and not end up as the average American out there, work until you're 65 with no money towards retirement and debt. That's not good. I hope you guys can do better than that. Also, if you want to get a real eye opener of the average American, look up Caleb Hammer and watch some of his financial audit shows. Those are everyday Americans that would be on the street or you'd see in public. And every one of them is just completely drowning in debt. So he's trying to help them out and wake them up to understanding that they can't keep living the life that they're living. So again, please become obsessed about your finances. Become obsessed with making a budget. Become obsessed with watching your shares increase in the stock market. And also become obsessed with not financing things. You can buy now, pay later, pretty much anything. Become obsessed with avoiding that. Pretend that's a plague and you want to avoid it at all costs. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I hope you guys all have a great day.